Who do you want to be? How do you get there? Let's talk to the people in those positions on your journey to becoming you. We are here at Mark Trostle.
You got it.
Desk at Stellantis headquarters for another episode of Becoming You. This is the second episode, which is the second retake. Graciously, Mark did not blast me for having to do this interview again. So here we are with the man himself. I know you wouldn't take it, but I like to call you the current king of Mopar, and, the head of RAM design. So this guy is a very important guy to today's industry and all that. But we're not here to talk about Stellantis. We're here to talk about this guy here. So I think I told you before, I went online and went to look up some things about you before doing the first interview. I'm like, I don't know too much about him. There's pretty much nothing about you online as far as your personal life. So I'm like, man, he's a pretty reserved guy. So I had to come in here and do some digging for the second time. So we'll start off, man. I just want to tell all the viewers that interviewing you was great, man. You're like one of the best people. The advice he gave me was, you don't even know he gave me good advice for life, but it was great. So we'll just start off, man, real quick, so I won't take up too much of your time. You were born and raised here in Michigan.
Yes.
Okay. You minding me asking what city you went to?
No, not at all. Yeah, I was born and raised in Plymouth, Canton area. Okay. So I grew up, around cars, and certainly, being in the Detroit area, it helped fuel that car passion too.
That's cool, man. Okay, and I know you told me that your dad was an automotive designer.
Yes. Okay. So my father was a car designer. Still is a car designer, actually. He's 80 in his early 80s, and he's still working. So it's pretty cool. So it's definitely that's where I got it in my blood. So yeah, he was a car designer. He had worked at Ford Motor Company. He had worked at a company called American Sunroof Corporation, which was it's like specialty cars, convertibles and performance vehicles and that. My dad is a real gearhead, so I grew up in the garage with him. And then obviously, I had the drive to draw and sketch, and so, he was able to help for me to connect those dots to potentially follow in his footsteps as a car designer.
Nice. So at the same time you guys are working on cars, you're drawing cars.
Yeah.
Or you're jumping back and forth, taking a break. Yeah. You were just, man, he was... I wouldn't say grooming you, but you were in the right place, man, at the right time. You weren't the kid that was running off doing mischief. I'm not going to ask that question, but let's say most of the time, since he's here.
For the most part.
For the most part. So
I think we all have those moments. But
so growing up first, when you say the cars that he designed, some of those cars are collectibles. They're limited, right?
Yeah, he was involved in what was great, I think, about growing up with him is that he knew a lot of people in the industry from different car companies because they did a lot of work with General Motors. They did a lot of work with Ford and Toyota. And so as a young, as a teenager, I actually was able to be exposed to some of the different design leaders. And that's always great. So it was inspiring to me, not only because he inspired me, but just being able to see the interaction he had with people within the design industry.
That's cool. So he's pretty much a legend.
He is. I have to say, I look up to him, and I owe him a lot for being the person I am today too.
Good deal. Now, growing up, you have any siblings?
I do. I have a sister who's 5 years younger than me. She didn't go in the automotive world. She ended up going out of state. But yeah.
Okay. I just knew this was going to be an automotive family story. So okay, cool. And right here, now let's talk about you as a kid. Describe you as a kid. Were you into sports, elementary? We're not going to middle school. We're going to stick to elementary.
Way back when. I've got such a bad memory, but basketball. I used to love basketball. My height, I think, helped me on that. Ran track and things like that. But definitely not the stereotypical athletic. I got to do this. It was always, I was into design. I was into art and cars, so you know how cliquey even definitely. At a younger age things can be, but certainly was interested in those things, but it wasn't my main passion.
It's funny being you said that a lot of people that I talk to that does some type of design, they weren't too much into sports or anything. They for lack of better words, the nerd life. But other than that, you had any what they call extracurricular activities?
The other thing that I did was draw. I mean, I was just, that was either playing a little bit of basketball and, but, just drawing things. And it wasn't really into drawing cars at that time. It was just, the art piece of it and that. And I do remember, elementary and certainly middle school, having, taking the art classes and being recognized of, hey, yeah, you're kind of standing out, in those classes. So that was probably a good, and again, it comes down to passion, like last time we talked, it's passion. And I truly believe that, once you find something that you enjoy and you love doing, it'll take you somewhere.
Okay, so we'll get out of elementary and let's go to middle school. This is where you should be starting to feel yourself in, right?
Yeah.
You got that smile on your face, man.
Yeah, maybe, it's funny, though, there is definitely, probably a period from middle school through high school where, I had a little bit of knew what I kind of wanted to go in, but, I certainly went down a few roads that maybe weren't the best roads either to go down. I guess I say that in the sense of if your listeners are thinking like, oh wow, yeah, look, he started here and it was just a clear shot. Just as in everyone, there's avenues you go down that are the wrong avenues and you make wrong decisions and that. But it's back to the passion thing and kind of writing and following your passion and your gut, and I truly believe in that, right? It's it came down to hard work and trying to understand who do I want to be, what do I want to be, and I believe that earlier in life it's you're influenced by your friends and things around you, but we are wired a certain way, and hopefully that wiring overrides everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I'm glad you said that, you got into a few things, and that's the whole reason I'm doing this, is so we can kind of narrow down to what it takes to become you, of course, what you want to do in life. So there's no straight path, but, hopefully, like I said, we can cut a little corners, hopefully, when people watch you guys and see what you say. So, and still during that time in middle school, of course, you've had the traditional life outside of school. I mean, mom, dad, mom was stay at home. I figured it sounded like dad was pretty busy, but traditional lifestyle and big. Still here in Michigan. Though. Never left Michigan.
Yep, never left Michigan.
Good deal. Good deal. Any family trips or
everything was going to a car show. I'm not even kidding. I think we took one family vacation to Florida once, but everything revolved around car shows with my dad. And it was great, actually, because my dad was into hot rods, among other cars, and he had actually built he still has it, a 32 Ford Roadster, and had a rumble seat that opened up in the back. And my sister and I used to ride in the back of it, which is hilarious. No seatbelts, and we would go. Gosh, we went to Minnesota, we went to Ohio all the time in the back of this thing. In the back of it, my mom and dad would be up front, and my sister and I would be riding in the back of it. So, it's funny how times change. Of course, I never think of doing that to my kids.
No, I was about to say that. I would never put my kids in that.
But it's just so that was growing up. It was everything was car culture. It really was car culture.
Now, being you said that, and it's been some time since those days, how do you, and I don't know if you ever talked to your mother about this, because my wife actually just gave me this feeling. Every time we go on a trip, it's always about cars. Can we just go on a regular vacation? Why not kill two birds with one stone, And I got that spill when I ran into you in New York the last time. So what do you think mom feels about, how does she feel about that?
And I think my mom, my mom, I think obviously, knew my dad's passion for cars, and my mom, very tolerant of that piece of it, and she probably didn't go on every single trip. That was great actually for my dad and I to bond. There were so many years where it was just he and I going to car shows together in one of his hot rods. So that was great. But she was definitely a big supporter of it, and I think it was actually good for me too, because it kept me somewhat focused too. I wasn't off with the friends that I shouldn't be with, so to speak, and that. So it was, it was able to, have that family time.
You were exposed at a time. There weren't many people having a lifestyle like that. Going into high school, this is hope you got some interesting stories right here, but you can't tell everything. So going into high school, at this point, were you joining any organizations as far as your artistic abilities, or?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had taken some art classes because I was still into it, but my direction was probably still a little off. I was still not completely focused. I was very much into photography as well, and I thought, it'd be great to be an automotive photographer. I really want to do that. You'll still like to draw on that, but my high school art teacher, just ironically, had been a former clay modeler at General Motors, automotive clay modeler, and he had retired out of that and then started teaching high school students art. And I would always be drawing cars in class, and he was pretty hard on me because I was not really focused so much. And then we created this connection, and he took me under his wing, and he would give me specific assignments in art class that were geared towards automotive design. I remember he gave me an egg and he put these tape lines on it, and he said, okay, I want you to draw this egg with these lines on it in different perspectives, because it makes you think about shapes and perspective, and it's a difficult thing to actually be able to draw. And
were you shadowing also?
Yeah, exactly. And that was a real turning point for me my sophomore year of college. I granted had my father as an influence, but we all know that it comes a point in high school where your parents don't know what they're talking about.
They don't know anything.
And it's almost to the point of like, well, whatever he says, I want to do the opposite.
Yeah, they're not educated enough.
Exactly, just not smart, right? And so, fortunately, I was able to click with this art teacher, and that then having the father, talent piece of it, I think putting those two together really let me focus on that side of it. And I was very much into photography and car design or drawing cars throughout my high school career. I'm very, very focused on that side of things. So.
Good deal, man. And I'll put this in there, even though he's a very busy man. If you look at his Instagram page, I'll put it up. He looks like he has a lot of time. He puts up more pictures than I do, so I don't get it. But yeah, photographer, I can see that in your field, and that's what you would have done if you weren't in this office.
Yeah, and again, I feel fortunate, and I that I've been able to connect with people that inspired me, because just as I had an art teacher that inspired me in car design, I had a photography teacher, and I was fortunate enough the high school I went to actually had a photography class, and so that person, I remember him, and he was just a passionate person about photography and about instructing, and I love that, and that same composition, understanding light and shadow from photography really applies to being an industrial designer or an automotive designer as well. So the two really kind of went hand in hand together.
I can see that. You know how to visualize.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Got you. Wow, and while we're on this page, I know, once again, we talk about who your dad worked for, contracted with. How did he feel about you having that GM?
I think he very much supported that.
Okay.
He very much supported that.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, because I think he saw it as, all right, somebody's getting through to him, because again, my dad, through a few years there, even though we did a lot of car stuff together, there's always that, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Any breakthrough, he would take it with you.
Exactly,
Oh, okay. All right. So, and at this point, I believe it is. You told me the last time you did have a car in high school. Your first car in high school.
Yes.
What was that again?
It was my father had bought it from my mom. It was a 1979 5-liter Capri. So it was the Fox body. It was the Mercury version of the Mustang, and I actually liked it better because it had the cool fender flares on it and that. And that was one that my dad and I actually, my senior year of high school, I had stripped the car down to bare metal, and we repainted it in the garage, and I put big 16-inch wheels on it, which were big at the time.
I was gonna say, that tells you the time.
Yeah, I had gone to a junkyard and bought like late model Capri things, and changed it up and that. So it was a fun project, fun car. So it's one of those that I still wish I had that car. It's your first car, and things that you modified.
I think we talked about that. You ever thought about looking for it?
Yeah, I just don't even know where I'd begin. I just don't
well,
even. And now I think I'd be like, I just want to go buy one that's
it's not
perfect.
The same.
True, it's not the same.
No. I'm currently looking for my we'll talk about this later, but my great grandmother's cars that made me fall in love with. She let me pick out her brand new Cadillac at 5.
Oh, that's
Took
cool.
me to the dealership, which one? And of course, I got the Fleetwood that was spinning in the window.
Nice.
We drove it home that day, so I remember those things. So
sentimental.
Yeah. So we'll talk. I found a couple ways to figure that out. But okay, so now during this point in high school, let's talk about the end of high school. Let's 11th, 12th, prom. Were you focused on college, or we got to give the kids that's watching?
Yeah, exactly. Because it wasn't a straight shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this, that, and I truly believe this, and that's part of why maybe we can even touch on the Drive for Design piece of program, but because it all ties in, is that I think I mentioned to you, I remember talking to my high school guidance counselor my junior year and saying, I want to be a car designer, and they're like, well, you don't have the math grades to be a car designer, and I'm like, it's not that type of car design. It's not engineering, and they're like, no. That's what car designers are. They're engineers. I'm like, no, it's style and that. Knowing being exposed from my father.
Right.
And that always stuck out to me as a kind of a point of like, no, I do know what I want to do. I want to go into this field.
Right.
And my art teacher was aware of this car design competition that was held at the Detroit Autorama, which is still around today.
Right.
And it was for high school students. And he said, you should enter one of your car designs. And I entered it, and I won it. Got a small scholarship to attend the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, which, for your viewers, it is one of the best car design schools in the country. The Art Center in California, Cleveland, and then College for Creative Studies.
Yeah.
There's a handful. In fact, Ralph went there as well.
Right.
So it really, that started to set things in place in high school. That competition. My guidance counselor actually was more of a motivator than I think they know. Just by trying to redirect, and again, not having the math skills. It's the artistic right brain versus left brain. It's just having a good balance, because I truly believe that math is important, and it's important to do well in those things, but the passion.
Well, it's funny you say it like that, because of course, like you said, knowing your dad, you knew how to talk to that counselor. Me, they're like, oh yeah, you got to do good in all this literature. And literature? I like to draw. What is
exactly? That is exactly it. And I have to tell you, so that car design competition that I won, it gave me confidence. It set me in the right direction. And I used to love following the winners of that, because they were all high school students. It went away, and I about 11, 12 years ago, I brought a version of that back here within our company, and we call it Drive for Design. And my sole purpose for that was to reach students, young people, that maybe had the same guidance counselor conversation I have, but what you just said, that they weren't aware of the field. And so I'm trying to expose those people that have a love for automotive design or cars, and take that talent and make them aware that they can have an amazing career.
Right.
And it's not just engineering, it's not just math, it's not just science, that side of it's there. And so that's what I try to use to inspire, a lot of young people these days with that.
In those days of you going off to college, pretty much no one knew that was a career unless you were in the automotive industry.
Exactly. The internet wasn't there, so the exposure, it's, nowadays it's easy to find that stuff. So certainly at the time, and it's still a small field too.
Right. And even in those days, would you say if you told someone you were an automotive designer, well, before you in the 80s, they think you're just this guy that throws paint on a canvas and
or an engineer, right? Or you're an engineer. Okay. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Have you ever, just curious, have you ever talked to that counselor since high school?
No. In fact, I don't even remember their name. I wish I did, because that would have been a great conversation. Because ironically, my art teacher, who I stayed in touch with even after I had graduated from college. And then we did lose contact, but 2 years ago, through a series of events, someone through Stellantis who knew the art teacher's son actually reached out to me and said, I have some of your artwork that my friend's father had, and and it was him, and I was actually able to reconnect with him. I went to his house. He still lived relatively local. Sat down and talked to him. Unfortunately, he passed away a year ago, but it was just an amazing experience to be able to connect with him and literally thank him for helping me so much early on. So it was pretty special.
Yeah. Man, I can imagine it's just a good feeling to accomplish something and go back to those people. Yeah. Hey, I didn't waste your time.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. At 100%. I remember telling him that too.
That's cool, man. Wow, that's a sentimental part of your life right there. Okay. Yeah. I know I said we talked about different classes, literature, English, and all that stuff, but CCS was a school I drooled over, of course, but you have to have them grades in order to go to CCS.
Absolutely.
I had to go to a different college first, and then life took over. So guys, just get the grades. I tell my sons all the time, you got to play the game in order to run it.
Absolutely.
So it is what it is, guys.
Yep.
And so now we're going to go off to college. And before we start this, is there a period right here where you met your wife?
Ironically, in college. I met her in college. So yeah, my freshman year of college.
She was at CCS?
So the story goes, the story is, I had a roommate at College for Creative Studies as I lived on campus, and you were just kind of randomly put with someone, and there was only two of us in the room. This person was a year ahead of me. I was a freshman, he was a sophomore in automotive design, and he had some friends over shortly in January, shortly after we had come back from winter break, and he had some friends over from high school, and one of them happened to be who is now my wife. So he went to high school with her and some of her friends, and they were over, and she was actually an art history major, so we had the artistic connection to it as well. But so she didn't attend CCS, but that set things in motion.
So did you guys sit at home and do couples painting? Or,
No.
Okay, all right. Just had to ask. Is she still into art? Does she still do art?
She has very much an appreciation for it, not as heavily these days, but certainly we compliment each other on things for sure.
Okay,
so.
Cool. Good deal. Yeah, I can imagine she critiques your things. I can imagine that. So we have to put her on Stellantis list of cast in in his biopic or whatever. So okay, so now we're at a CCS, and you left from high school, went straight to CCS.
Correct.
There was no, I forget, Ralph calls that time. He calls that time. He has a name for it. Yeah, I'll have to put it up.
I used to joke that I've been joking that I created the gap year before it was a thing. Now it's fashionable to do these gap years.
That's standard nowadays. We're in College of Creative Studies, and let's say this, when you go to a new school, the transition from elementary to middle to high school to college, how long did it take you to get focused?
A year, at least a good year. In fact, I will say I got put on probation my freshman year. Was at that school. Each semester you have a faculty review, portfolio review, as well as an academic review.
Right.
They do something similar. It's not as hardcore as it used to be, where, to put it this way, we started, Ralph and I both, we started with 70 students our freshman year that wanted to be car designers, and we graduated with 12. So it's, ultra competitive, and they just would weed it down. So that maturing had to happen very rapid, and part of it was 18 years old, you're living away at home, like this is great, and that school doesn't really allow for partying, in the sense of you have to just be dedicated, and you're working, sketching around the clock. People always say, well, you went to a design school, art school, how hard can it be? And it is that hard, because just in anything you do, practice makes you better, and everyone around you is practicing nonstop. And if you're not doing it, you're falling behind. And I fell behind my freshman year. I came in probably pretty strong my freshman year for being 18, and then that had some fun, maybe too much fun. Got put on probation, and it kicked my butt. I mean, I was devastated. I mean, tears. It was like, And but it changed. It was another focusing moment for me in life of like, okay, this is what you want to do. You gotta stay on it. And from that point on, it was it was work.
You get kicked out of CCS. That doesn't look good at all.
And I have friends I know that maybe needed another year to grow or took a year off or and they made it through. But I didn't. I wanted to get to the end. I wanted to get through it.
That's a hard part of life. And actually, like you said, those friends and all that, I actually left. I went to Georgia for college because I knew I needed to get away from them. I didn't want to, but I needed to. And man, that's good right there to tell the viewers about that. But luckily, you got focused in time.
Right
exactly.
In time.
So, because even though you say it's competitive there, they're not a top school just because, it's serious business there. And that's why you said, way more than half of the students that were with you when you started weren't there at the end.
Exactly.
For a host of issues and reasons, but, the strong survive. I guess I could say that.
Right.
But so being here, let's jump towards the end of, you did 4 years?
So 4 years there, got to, what was great was, being able to do a few internships, interned at General Motors, ironically, and then I interned at Chrysler, as the company was known at the time, and that really let me get to know the people and the culture that this company is what I love still about this company. John Hurlitz was Tom Gale, Neil Walling. Those were the heads of design at the time, and they were just special people. And they were coming out with the Viper concept vehicle, the new Ram, and a slew of other concept vehicles. That was like, oh my gosh, that company has got a cool future. I want to be a part of that.
They were definitely around that time, the 90s. They were good when it came to concepts.
Unbelievable.
Everything was different from everyone else.
Yeah.
So, I love looking at those
cab
pictures.
Forward design. I mean, it was just knock your socks off stuff. Yeah.
So I don't know if you can answer this question, but before coming to Chrysler, making your decision, where do you think you might have went?
So I had an offer from General Motors. I had an offer to go to Opel in Germany as well at the time. But I have to tell you, Chrysler was my goal. That is where I wanted to be, and it came down to the Viper, and it came down to Tom Gale and John Hurlitz. Those people, they were amazing human beings, and it really stuck with me, and that was this is where I wanted to be.
Cool. Okay, so how long after graduating CCS did you start?
I graduated in May, and I started June 15th. So it was. I took a little period off, but it was right into it.
Wow! So. Did it just work out like that, or was that you being focused?
Fortunately, I had the job offer that I could accept, and I remember them saying, well, you can take 2 months, you can take 3 months, or you can start. I'm like, just get me in. I just want to be in there. So
that's what I've been working for. All
exactly.
This time. Okay, that is cool. Now I love the story. Ralph tells it and you tell about you guys seeing the Viper, and that's what really started your decision coming to Chrysler. That's pretty cool. What year was that certain Viper that you guys talked about?
So that was in.
Well, it was a concept.
It was a concept. I want to say it was 89, 90 when the concept was shown at Detroit. I believe it was that time, which would have put me about a sophomore or so, or junior at CCS. So, but that Detroit Auto Show was always such an epic car show at the time, and as you said, the concepts that would come out of this place were just like and that vehicle was just, it was awesome. It was awesome. And
I pretty much been to, I was born in '89.
Now I feel old.
So it's funny because my mother always made sure my grandmother always made sure I went to the auto show, and I can remember the earliest I can remember seeing the design that led to the Intrepid, the LHS, the Concorde, and my mother ended up getting an Intrepid, and that was my first time seeing actually being there to pay attention to a concept goes to a car out on the road. So what was the first vehicle you worked on that you had something that went into production? I don't care if it was a knob or...
Yeah. So, I mean, probably don't want it's not really, I shouldn't say I'm not proud of it, but it's not glamorous because the brand isn't even around anymore.
Oh,
Talk about feeling old. Plymouth. So it was a Plymouth Breeze was the name, a horrible name too in hindsight. I don't want to offend anyone, but
it was.
Because it was, we had three products. We had the Stratus, then I think the Sebring, and then the Breeze. So they were the four-door sedan. And I was in a production studio for my first assignment in design, and I did the tail lamp of it. So the tail lamp was my first production piece that ever made it. So I should try and find one from a junkyard.
Yeah, there you go, man. See, you might as well, man. Just get the whole car. I'm sure it's the same price as the light. I don't know. So, now what year was that went into production? Can you remember? Or what generation?
Well, it was the first generation of it, because the code name was JA of the cars. So that I want to say it was 94. 94 is when I think it went into production.
Okay.
So, and I started in 92. So it was, I'd been in here. And then I actually had a pretty good run of concept vehicles after that. So that was the first production piece I did. Then I did the Chrysler LHX concept vehicle, which was amazing to be, young. That, whatever I was at the time, 24, 25, designed this full exterior concept vehicle. Then the following year, I did the Chrysler Phaeton, was another concept vehicle. And then right after that, I did the Dodge Intrepid ESX concept vehicle. So I had a pretty fun run of doing concept vehicles, which was great, and it was special because I had been so fond of concept vehicles that this company had been doing. So it was really a good time, and I actually got to spend time in our West Coast design studio shortly after that too. So it was a really special time for me.
Nice. Now, when you say you got to spend time, was it like a temporary move?
It was a temporary. It was about a year that I was there, but it was great. You
didn't have kids.
I wasn't married, didn't have kids. I still dating my now wife, cool. But it was great being able to be in California for a period.
That was some nice exposure too. What was the first vehicle exterior design? Was mostly from your concept?
The first one was the Dodge Ram SRT-10.
And just to let you know, since the last time we talked, I've been looking to find one at a good
you
price.
and me both. We're probably looking at the same ones because I'm always looking.
I'm looking for a crew cab.
Are you? Okay. Yeah, I want the standard cab because that's had the manual, with it.
The crew cab didn't come in?
Right. The crew cab was automatic only.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I've been looking, man. I really have to get one. I'm like, Mark's got to sign this. I have to get one. That is cool, man. That was a nice introduction into you being the lead designer right there.
Yeah. And it was great because, what I love about this place is I've been able to work on a lot of different brands. Whether I had spent time in Jeep and Chrysler and Dodge, and then doing Ram truck, and it was great to be able to that being the first one.
That's cool. Yeah, that's man. I can imagine that first time, especially seeing that Sebring. You're just out on the road scouting. Where's my car? Where's my car? There it is. I can imagine, man. And when that SRT-10 Ram came out, that was a big deal, man. That was a real big deal.
Yeah.
I drooled over that too the first time I saw it, man. So cool. So with you coming into the company, was there a sense of let's get these older guys out of here? I mean, I know they had some pretty good up-to-date concepts, but you guys really, revamped things.
There was so much talent here. I mean, there really was. I will say that there, when Ralph and I both started, there was a pretty big gap, an age gap between us being, 22, 23 when we started. I don't think there had been a lot of young people being brought in, and some of it was if you think about the K-car era, it was granted the company was very successful with those products, but it probably wasn't the most aspirational place to work, and that's where that Viper and those concept cars kind of turned the page on the image of the company, and I think that's where a lot of younger people then started making, hey, this is where I want to be, and so. it's with youth there's that enthusiasm, but there's a naivety that of course we have. So I think it was a very good experience for me though coming in, but being humble and wanting to learn from those above me that have that experience. And I think that, to this day, we all can learn from each other. And that was a big moment for me, I think, coming in here because of the amount of talent that was here, that I was able to grow into this company.
Well, you guys actually set a period of your own. I don't know if you realize that, because with those K cars, we knew there were some older people here. And when you guys start dropping the Intrepids, the Seabrains, and the Viper, and it's like, all right, there's somebody in there with some new ideas. Like you said, the internet wasn't really popular, so that was you guys coming in and really started changing the tone. So that's cool. I think that would always be a staple in this company of you guys making that transition. So now that you're in this company and seasoned, at what point did you consciously start considering, hey, I'm going to design a car, but let's talk about reality? Where does it come from, that just outrageous concept to you toning down?
It's a good question because, with, that naivety that I talk about, that's where a lot of creativity comes from. And what starts to happen as a car designer is you start to become very familiar with, all the ingredients that go into a vehicle, whether it's the marketing, certainly manufacturing, the engineering. We've got to roll the car over, you've got to crash it into a wall, it's got to cost a certain amount. It's, all these different disciplines that have a big voice in this vehicle. And then you do this great, cool car sketch that's like, oh yeah, I want to drive that thing, but it's got 30-inch wheels, it's this tall, and it's like, but as a piece of art, you love to look at it, and it's emotional. So the key, the thing that starts to happen through experience and design leaders helping young people that are right out of college that can do that amazing, cool, cheated sketch is how do you capture the essence of that piece of art into a production vehicle, to the point where, like the first Viper sketch, maybe kind of cool looking, but there's probably cheated, things like that. But how do you take the essence of that and make it into something that a person can actually fit in it? They can actually, it does all the things that you still want to, but still have that emotional connection. And to me, that's what the progression of a car designer is all about, is, you do that sketch and you're learning how to translate that, having, I won't call them battles, but interfacing with engineering. How do you give the engineer what he needs, but you still
I'm sure
what
it gets
you want?
heated every time.
And honestly, just one other thought on that is, to young people watching, the most important thing in the world is being able to work with people, and whether you have a counter opinion to them or a disagreement, a difference of opinion, how do you work with someone to still create something that you ultimately probably both want to be great, without your ego just getting in the way of it? And that's a key ingredient to anything you do in life, I believe, is how you deal with people.
And that's something that comes. You think that came over time during college, or did it come over time during your career?
I will say that I believe some of it is how my upbringing was, how I was wired, right? But I do believe that through my career and through having people that I admire, such as the Tom Gales, the John Hurlitzes, the designers that were in front of me, those leaders, and watching them and watching how they interacted with people becomes infectious. And we've all worked or met people that you just can't get along with. And to me, if you can still take something away from those types of leaders or people, because you can say, I don't want to be that type of person. I don't want to be a leader like that. Who inspires me, and why do they inspire me? and how can I take that and and use that as part of who I am too. And I truly believe in that. So enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm. That's how I like to live my life. So.
I love that. And I mean, I'm glad you said that, because me learning as I get older, even those people that are, like you said, not too good of people, you can take some good from them.
Exactly.
You know,
they may not know it. They might not like what you're taking from them, but you're making yourself better.
That's cool. That's cool. So now at your current position, are you more so overseeing design versus reality, or what do you? How do you describe your current position?
Yeah, it's. I tell you, I love where I'm at in my career for where I'm at. What I've been exposed to and what I've gone through, because I have the ability now where I have young people right out of school in my studio, and I just love their passion and emotion and things they create, and they push back, right? Like, no, what's wrong with you, old guy? This is cool, but and I love that, that passion. But then, I'm able to also, I've got a team that, is seasoned and they know what it takes to put a car or a truck together. And so for me, I get to play in both those worlds now, where I get to foster that creativity and that youthful enthusiasm. But then I also get to work on creating something that I know is going to hit the road and hopefully be successful at the same time. So it's a fun place for me to be right now.
Yeah, in the design field, I can imagine, as a designer, a creator, you pretty much never age mentally, but yet you have so much wisdom,
Yeah, right.
So,
right.
Yeah,
right.
You're like a perfect team leader.
Exactly, and that's where I think, I like for my team to push me, to challenge me on things with logic, and the passion too, because we create products that hopefully even your viewers and yourself, you get out of it and you walk away from it, you want to look back at it, and you have to be able to create that spark, and it takes everyone's enthusiasm to make that.
Okay. So now I know you have to go, but at this point in life, what do you think some of the decisions you should have made that would have been better for your career?
Is
there anything on the top of your list? What do you think you should have?
Yeah, that's a heavy question. I think the biggest thing is, if I could go back and do it again, I certainly would keep that passion of drawing and sketching. I think though that maybe a little bit more respect for the academic side earlier on, because it is important and it does matter. And I think maybe that respect would have made it a little bit easier through high school and through the college days of getting through those academic pieces, but still following your passion in it. But it's tough. It's tough when you're young, and if you're not good at something, maybe you don't want to do it, and it's that discipline. But I'm a true believer in hard work and perseverance. It will pay off if you're passionate about it and not giving up on it. So I think, obviously I turned out okay on everything, but if I could go back and do it all again, I would probably respect the academics a little bit more than I did.
Okay, that's perfect. I tell my sons all the time. I mean, I wish I would have paid attention to it myself, but that is the key to that door for the rest of your life, and you guys just have to realize that. So, man, I know you have to go once again, but I thank you for giving all our viewers some insight and some guidance to where to go to become such an established automotive designer, an icon that's still in the job. You guys inspired me so much.
Well, thank you. I thank you very much, and I'm glad that, and I hope I'm able to inspire someone else. And if I could just do one selfless plug here for Drive for Design, drivefordesign.com. A design program that we have here at Stellantis that we do every year for high school students. The winner gets an internship here. I actually had a high school student in the design studio. We flew him in from California, put him up for the summer. And there's great prizes and things that come along with it, plus being able to take a class at College for Creative Studies. So if there's any young people in high school that are passionate about car design, that's a great avenue to learn about it.
There we go.
So.
And I'll make sure I put that link in the description below, because when you started this, I wasn't in high school, and I was like, man, when I found out about it, man, I was, yes, here's my second shot. And it's like, oh, it's high school student. So, guys, you know, once again, you know, you want to end up getting on that plane coming here, make sure you focus on your grades, and of course, focus on your artistic abilities, you know, make sure you fine tune it. But once again, thank you, Mark, for everything. Thanks for seeing me a second time. I'm going to throw it out there before he throws it out there. Yeah, so we'll see you guys on another episode of Becoming You.